I'm just I'm gonna see if this is live. I'm just having a look, guys. If you can see my face and I'm being dodgy, it is because um I am just looking to see if this is working. It looks like it is. Okay, fantastic. All right. Yep, I've just got my phone up. Yes. Okay, amazing. It's saying that I'm live. It's probably a good 3 minutes of me acting like a crazy lady, but that's natural. Just natural. Okay, so welcome everyone. Is this working? It is indeed. Welcome, welcome. My name is Aasha. I am so thrilled for you to be here and watching this. If you are catching us live, jump into the comments. I've got the comments open, so I am ready to converse with you. I am Asha T. I'm a relationship expert, emotional intelligence and connection. I am devoted to bringing you to your highest timeline, whether that's your purpose, with your body, with your health, or with the relationship that you are desiring to attract and keep and hold. And I absolutely love what I do. I am so excited. I have brought in today one of my amazing clients. Her name is Amelie. She's going to share with us all about her new upcoming program and how she is here to help. I have seen her journey into this program from, someone who had just started following me a few years ago, and she is just such an inspiration. So I'm so, so excited that she is here today. Let's go ahead without further ado and bring her in. And we were just talking about some really hot things in the collective. So let's get into it. Hello, gorgeous.
Hi.
Hi, honey.
I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my God, I'm so happy that you are here. And I just love your flowery background. We were just having a little chat in the background, and I was just saying to the crowd, I can't wait to speak with you. You're so inspirational. I'm so happy that you're here today.
Thank you for having me. I really
Oh my
appreciate it.
God. We love having you on. And everybody who's listening, please say hello. I've just got the comments up here in the corner. So please, any questions or anything that you want to say, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Amelie, why don't you go ahead and share with us who you are and what you do?
Awesome. Well, thank you. So my name is Amelie, and I created Soul Lestic Intelligence. This is a massive, just passion project for me. It's something that I've had is as a calling since I was 16. Like I just knew that I wanted something more from life, and I made it my vision and just my path to discover wisdom and really deeply connect spiritually with myself. And it hasn't been the most easiest thing. The lifetime that I've chosen has been really difficult. There's been a lot of things that I've had to overcome, and there's still more things to overcome. But it does get easier and easier. And so when um, I think a few years ago, I think I had a really big awakening in 2019, and I was blasted into expansion that was pretty unbearable at the moment. I didn't know what it was. And so my walk since then has been to really deepen into that, to deepen into myself and to love and honor myself and what my purpose is in being here. And in that is where I met you.
Yeah.
And so, in meeting you and going through some of the courses that you've offered, it's been really helpful to help guide me into where I am right now, which is pretty overwhelming, but also amazing. And I was crying this morning from just being overwhelmed of the purpose of why I'm here and the ancestral remembrance that I was experiencing. So it's just been a really beautiful thing. And in my soul, in my purpose, in my life, I'm here to help guide those that are wanting to be called into their own soul remembrance. And so that's why I created my course, the Mystical Energy Spa. And it kind of pulls from a lot of energy things that we talk about kind of in the collective space, but it also draws on my Native American roots as well. So I've just been really called deeply to remember that and to bring that wisdom and information and knowledge to those who are ready to answer that call that they're having in their life.
I love that so much. So basically, really, if I want to paraphrase a little bit for people who might be watching, who might be interested in hearing about what you're sharing, it's kind of like this modern woman who's coming back to sort of these like indigenous or magical roots. And maybe she has like a fear of being seen in that because of old programming or perhaps um things on the internet. I mean, we were just talking about, God, my God, the programming on the internet. I am honestly like, sometimes I'm just like, this is just crazy. The amount of things that people will say to people to keep them small. So, and so perhaps that's like always feeding into our stories a little bit, right? Tell me a little bit about that. When I say that, like, you kind of bringing that indigenous touch, which I love because, obviously I study shamanic practitioner and I'm so into that indigenous lineage. Tell us a little bit about how that blends with the modern woman.
Uh, so a lot of women experience what might be known as the witch wound,
Mhm.
where their magic and their psychic abilities and their gifts and talents were minimized, and even up to where they were killed. And so some of us will hold those codes in ourselves, and we won't know why we don't want to be seen, and we'll kind of hide in these like social groups. You might find somebody that resonates with you, but it's like one or two people. And so that is one of the big things. And obviously ostracism is a big fear spell. It can activate your survival mechanism, which right now um, there are so many people that are living in this survival mode, and they may know it or they may not even know it that they're in that, and they're counting on this stress to keep them going through the day. And it's unsustainable for your
Oh,
body to
God.
continuously pour out your energy to others and not have your own cup filled. So as part of my course, I help to guide you and just remind you and show you the tools of how do I activate back into rest and digest and repair, because we really want to be in that rest, digest, and repair, because if we're not there, we're not able to fully give ourselves in service to the divine, to the collective, to the people that need healing. And a lot of women feel that, just they're natural nurturers and they want to heal others, but they'll get stuck in these people pleasing and this emotional anchor for others instead of focusing on themselves. So really, this is as far as like emotional intelligence, this is, calling yourself back into your personal power and elevating yourself up there so that you're filled and you can give the most to everybody around you, and still have the boundaries to say, no, I don't have space for you. I only have space for my children, or I only have space for my husband, and or whatever your group is. Like, you could have friends. I only have space for these people at this time. Like, I need to rejuvenate. If we're stuck in this stress survival mode, we
Mm.
won't recognize that in ourselves. And I call it being in a low battery mode, because you're going to have brain fog, because your prefrontal cortex is going to go shut down to the least output that it can manage. Your digestive system is going to be at the least output it can manage. It's not going to be, if you could eat the healthiest meals, but if you're under stress, you're not getting the vitamins, minerals, water that your cells need. If you're not breathing, a lot of the times, if you're under stress, you might take shallow breaths. If you're not breathing full breaths, your body's not getting the oxygen. And if you're not moving, like you're just like frozen, you're not moving, you're not, like, I go dancing and I go for walks just
Yeah.
to get my body moving because it needs that. And so these are all things that we forget. They're so simple, but we forget them because I feel like that brain fog really kind of is like controlling us if we're stuck in that survival mode and relying on stress to get us, through the workday, making the dinner, cleaning the house, and like still not feeling like you're enough at the end of the day. And
Oh,
we are enough.
I know. I know. Man, this is so resonant. And obviously, I teach this, and I actually recently, maybe just about 3 weeks ago, we made a big investment into my business. And all of this started coming up for me. I'm like, oh my God, like what? Because I've been accused of betrayal and ostracized, and my life path showed me the pain of a woman who's like, when you have a lot of power, you're going to be afraid to be seen in that power if you have these older wounds. And for me, what I believe is these older wounds are stemmed in lack of emotional intelligence and lack of subconscious work to remove the root of the wound. I believe that's the stem of the burnout, that we're in this fight, flight, or freeze. And so with this most recent investment, it was like everything got punched into the face of how many women are just running on this fight, flight, or freeze completely unconsciously. They have no idea. And then the thing is that your instant, for me anyway, because obviously I'm highly feminine, is you want masculine direction and you want masculine leadership and you want to be able to like let it all go. And there's no masculine in sight. And that, I think, is one of the most difficult things for the modern day feminine woman is like, where is the actual support? And what I'm noticing this season in particular, and this lifetime in particular, is how many women have to source that within first in order to attract that healthy masculine man. Otherwise, she's going to keep attracting these masculine men that she's going to want to rescue her. And then the same perpetuation continues to happen. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, first, I do want to mention that I'm a human design reflector. I'm a 6-2 reflector. And one of your courses that I took is where I got my revelation. That's where I learned about it. I had no idea what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I cried a couple times.
Yeah, yeah,
I cried
yeah.
because it was this validation of me feeling like I wasn't like the others. And it was such a huge validation that it it helped to assign that responsibility that I had. Being a human design reflector is like being the ultimate feminine woman. And for the longest time, I identified myself as a masculine woman. I was out,
Yeah, yeah.
buying the house,
Born in
having
the
the
face of
job,
it.
doing all the things. And at the end of it, like I got really burnt out from that. So I deeply identify with these women that are looking for that masculine relationship. But what I love about working with you in your course is you're calling in the divine masculine from within. And that is so important. And it sounds counterintuitive. And this is what I'll say about it is if you're relying on an external man to fulfill an internal need that you have, you're missing the point. And we
Missing
do
point,
this, you're,
especially if you're too much and then he leaves or whatever the
yeah. And
story
then
is.
you're like, oh my God, I am too much. And then it
Yeah.
just like feeds that fear. And so, with the work that you've illuminated for me in, connecting with that inner divine masculine and matching that with that inner divine feminine, and really focusing on having that relationship within, you'll start to feel it. You'll start to feel the misalignments. You'll start to see the misalignments. You might not want to be working in the job that you're working in because it's a feedback loop of, I need to control, I need to take care of things. And so you might have to change industries, or you might have to change the whip. Like I had to do that. It becomes counterintuitive. Like you start to think it's counterintuitive that if I choose myself, then everything's going to fall to shit. And that's a lie. And I think a lot of women believe that story of, if I choose myself, everybody's going to leave. If I don't control everything, it's all going to fall to shit and I'm not going to have my empire, which is the opposite. When you let go and surrender and follow your purpose, life expands. You expand. New things come in. Old things that don't serve you leave. And you come into this really beautiful divine relationship with yourself and to God. However you want to say that. I say God. I'm like, dude, we all utter that. So I try not to get too caught up in it, but I'm just like, whatever that source is that you see as your creator, that has made you and that has called you into your soul purpose, and that contract that you've accepted from um, your creator, being here in this realm that we're in is a very beautiful thing. So it sounds counterintuitive, and sometimes those counterintuitive measures are like a test to you. Are you going to fall into the fear of going down the same path that you've been going down, or are you going to instead face with courage and bravery the other side of what is unknown? And that's where, like, I love that you call it self-worth warriors, because it really is. You have to suit up and you have to arm yourself with an ability to call in what you need, and call in that self-love, call in that self-worth, call in that self-confidence, and really hold yourself at the high level that you are. I found that I used to choose men that, like you said, would almost chip away and minimize who I really was. And it's because I didn't hold the self-worth enough to say, you know what, you're not matching me. You're actually lowering me. You're not enough to hold me, because I'm up here and I have to drop myself down. And that's where the worth piece comes in. And so I if you guys haven't found a self-worth course, like the Self-Worth Warriors course is an amazing course. I it's very valuable. It's very inexpensive, like, to get started, but it's such a valuable tool to help kind of get you engaged into that self-worth piece. And once you start to realize and recognize your power, and recognize how beautiful and magical and how much wisdom you hold and carry, like, once you realize that your codes and what you carry, like, no man is going to validate that for you. You've got to validate it for yourself inside. Once you hold that, um, the energy goes out. I like to call it soul glitter. Soul glitter.
Yeah.
Like, once you have this, like, beautiful, it's, you talk about it, the crystalline, like, I just imagine these little wispy glittery trails of rainbowness just shooting out of me. Once you start, like, throwing that energy out, the men that are there to match you, not to hold you, but to match you, are going to be called in. You'll start to see them come in, and then you get to choose. It's just like this
I
beautiful,
know.
like, you're like,
I
oh, I
know.
could, like,
I
pick
just
this
said
one
this.
or that one.
I just said this today. I mean, obviously, I have like a very specific type of man that I want to be with. But in fact, just the other day, a man came in, dark, tall, handsome, producer. And I'm just like, well, he was 31 years old. But I'm like, oh my God, like what is actually out there? And I've been that woman that's been tethered. I really actually felt like pretty moved by what you're sharing, because I can really relate to that. In fact, for me personally, in the moment, what I'm going through is a fear of being too big for like a man to love me. I know it sounds so crazy when you say it out
So
loud, because
crazy.
it is. It's like your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what reality is and what the story is that we're feeding it. And because I had such an activation the last couple of years with this man, I've been so afraid to let go of that because all I desire is, well, it's crazy because I desire family, depth, and love, and to be relaxed. And I desire this huge company, so it's like holding both. And I've been my psyche's sort of been splitting the two of them, but that happens in an upgrade. When you
Hmm.
get an upgrade, you're gonna create almost like these deviations so that you don't have to do the upgrade. You have to like lean in and be like, is this actually really what I want? And I've realized like I don't want to be with a man that's the guy that I met at the gym the other day. He's like, well, everybody's looking for like this finished product instead of actually wanting to come in and build together. And that's now the signal that I'm setting out to the universe is like, I want to be with a man that wants to build with me,
Hmm.
not somebody that just wants me perfect. And that was my own story, where it was like, oh, if I just do this one more thing. I had this story where I was like, oh, if I build, then he'll choose me. If I do this, then I'll get chosen. And I ended up like running myself into the ground. And I refuse to do that anymore. Like completely refuse to do that. I'm like, there's no way I'm running myself into the ground and doing what's not aligned for me. I want to be speaking and teaching and relaxing in the arms of a man that wants to build with me. Can you relate to that at
And
all?
performing. I know that
And
that's a big
performing
thing for
and
you.
being mom and having all these amazing things. Like all those things are going to be amazing. But I love what you shared because even when you were talking about like, do you trust or do you go into like a fear pattern? And so I'm like, oh my God, am I repeating a pattern where I'm like back with a sales coach again? But believe it or not, that's actually not the case. I need the sales system. So it's like this weird thing that our mind tells us like these stories. Can you speak on that a little bit about like the mind telling us these subconscious stories and how you help your clients with that?
Um, well, one of the things I want to talk about in the things that you were saying is when I was 16, I was like dreaming about my future husband and what it would be like. And it wasn't like what he looked like. It wasn't physical attributes. It was we were this like vine, and the longer we were together, like the thicker it got, and it just got higher and taller. And like
Ah,
I was like, that is the relationship that I want, is to have this union where we just wrap around each other and we just keep on building and shooting out the vines, and it just gets bigger and bigger, like a beanstalk almost, if you could imagine the Jack and the
yeah.
Beanstalk
Oh my God,
story.
I absolutely
And
love.
that was a vision that I had when I was 16. And I let go of that vision and that dream, and I became small, and I just kind of latched on to whomever would give me any like any
Yeah.
energy. So the beautiful thing about being a reflector is I have a unique ability, because my energy centers are so open, to almost engulf a person. And it's a weird thing to describe, but it's because I'm so open. I can almost like, I can feel the emotions. I can, when I hear the stories, like the words are just weaving this beautiful pattern of like this beautiful web of who my client is, or who my friend is, or whomever I'm talking to. And so I see them on this like beautiful timeline of like, okay, I can see where the problems are, but then I can also like take the wisdom that I'm getting from this story and help them to overcome it, come up with a plan. And just a lot of it is just speaking the truth of what they're dealing with. Because like I said, if you're a woman and you're in survival mode, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, whatever your situation is, you're likely, and it depends on how chronic it is, you're having brain fog. You're not going to be able to see far enough because you're in a fog. And it's a foggy feedback loop that you're just like, I don't know how to get out of here. And I see it all the time on the internet, on forums and everything, where people will say, I'm stuck in this unsatisfying, dull, mundane relationship, and I don't know how to get out of it. And I don't have the courage to get out of it. I don't know what the next thing to do is. And so women everywhere are holding this story in Western culture.
Oh
And
God, it's so relatable. Like it's almost
it is.
God, I can completely relate to this. And I'm pulling through magnetic frequency right now, which is about getting women like in their authentic vibration. So it's like this double whammy. Go on, go on. I want to hear more.
Yeah, so the nervous system is like in a sympathetic state, and so what I like to do is I like to do grounding exercises. I have tuning forks that I use to help ground, and just being in my energy, I'm a very powerful oracle, and I have so much wisdom, and like even today, I I realized that like my my ancestral roots were like sky people. So starseed, it's like a
Yeah.
star seed. And there's only 12,000 in my tribe. So I'm like one of 12,000 of them. But I realized that, I have this responsibility to bring the spiritual knowledge down to earth to help people. So I'm I'm not looking for just anybody to join my course. Like I'm looking for serious people. I don't have time for people that aren't ready to make that next jump.
Yeah.
Um, I I do offer private one-on-ones, but it's like very limited availability because it is a lot of energy to to be with somebody like that in that capacity because quantum entanglement is real. And so I have to be really careful about who I'm inviting into my energy. So if you're listening to this and you're serious about wanting to dive deeply into your ancestral roots, and a big part of this is, a lot of us, like I said, with the witch wound, we have these lineage wounds that sit in our
Mhm.
system as well. And I've had to work on those things too. Being a part of a tribe like I'm Cherokee and Arapaho, the Cherokee Trail of Tears is obviously sitting in my system somewhere. And then just being Arapaho and knowing that the last chief of the tribe, I'm like a descendant of, it's it's something that I'm like proud of, but then also that I'm like kind of disappointed in because it was the last one. So there's a lot of pain in knowing that there was a last something in a culture that I'm a part of.
Mhm.
I think we get called in, and sometimes we don't realize how important it is of knowing what your ancestral roots are.
Mhm.
And I'm also Irish, and the Irish as well had a lot of there's a lot of witch wounds there because certain heritages have keener psychic abilities.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was reviewing the telepathy files the other day, and it just hit me like even autistic children like have this really deepened psychic connection,
Mhm.
and these are all gifts. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Like the Cherokees, they're fire keepers, so like in that there's like this beautiful spirituality that goes into it. For me, like the Arapahoes, they're sky people, and so they're going from different dimensions, the spirit realm into this earth realm. um I feel like I'm rambling. I could go on, but
No, I mean, this is
I could feel like
amazing.
I'm
I
rambling.
love what you're sharing. And I think that there's so much beauty here, and your clients are going to be so like, they're just so filled with wisdom. It's amazing to watch you just grow and like really own this magic. And yeah, I'm just so honored. It's just, for me, a really, really intense time for the divine feminine and letting go of these stories and these entanglements. And I love what you talked about like the relationship with the masculine, where you almost described it as like a beanstalk or like a really thick root system. I think that's huge. And I'm going to take some of that on right now in particular because I want to like, it's for me in my life path, it's like working with my inner king and working with my beloved and my husband. And when your reality, I think for a lot of these women in particular, if they're single, they're wondering like if they're the problem. And certainly there's stories in there that she needs to work through, but it always comes down to her self-love and what she actually wants for herself. And I think that's been a really scary thing for women. They feel like they need to prove themselves. I get like quite emotional just
Yeah.
thinking about it as
It's
of recent, because I'm like, holy fuck, it's like such an entanglement. It's so hard to like get these stories out sometimes. And there's a lot of responsibility bringing love back onto this planet for women. And like, it's a lot of responsibility. I always, how I am, because, obviously I lost my house and I've been through so much and all of this resilient stuff. And I've got a really special place about, that Western white woman.
lost your house a couple times
Yeah, I
in
lost my
the
house a
time that
couple
I've known
times.
you.
That's it. And you know how I feel about the Western white woman. But at the same time, these emotions can feel really heavy because it's on behalf of the collective. And like, you're right. Like where she starts to put herself first is where the shifts are going to really start changing for her. It's like when she starts to let go of those attachments of like who she thinks she needs to be. And I'll tell you right now, like I'm like tottering on the edge of that. I keep saying I'm energetically letting go of being a CEO. I don't have a passion or desire to be a CEO, which is ironic because I'm also, running my own business, but like I'm energetically like letting that go completely, because it's a duality where it's like, okay, I don't want that life of like this big woman by herself. And I am still in service to God, and I fucking love my clients and I love serving my clients. So it's like this weird sort of like, well, that's the feminine right there. She's like this
Yeah.
big ass paradox. So no surprise.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I'm
what's
like, I
coming?
outcast being a CEO. I hate the boss babe. And then I'm like, people are like, but you have like a big business. And I'm like, don't look at me. Just do what I say. It's like an energy, because you've got to learn to speak that out as a woman. Like so many women are afraid to say, like, I need a man. I need a man. I need my
Mhm.
husband's sight. And like, even saying those words for women is like, people will be like, oh, she's desperate or she's codependent, when the reality is the feminine cannot do much without the masculine. Like she can do all she wants inside, but at some point something's got to give, and that's her
Mhm.
truth. Yeah, really
So
powerful.
what's coming through for me is that question of am I enough?
Yeah, that's right.
And it's it's really hard to say yes, I am enough and I don't need to lower myself to anybody. It really is claiming this like queen or this empress
I,
vibe.
yeah, because
And
can I share on that too? Like
mhm,
last week I was talking to my dance coach who's followed her dreams, and she is with like a very famous Puerto Rican singer. So she's a famous dancer here in Los Angeles, and then her partner is this like really good looking Puerto Rican guy who's got a major career down there. They magnetize each other. And she said to me, when I was going through the initial points of dancing, she goes, I hated it so much. She goes, I had headaches. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I don't know anything about this. I just knew that I wanted what I wanted. And she kept saying, what she made me realize is like, you have to keep your heart on the bigness of who you are. If you are not able to keep the heart on the bigness of who you are, you're gonna keep, it's a sickness. It's like a dopamine hit of like staying with the person who you think is going to save you and think is going to rescue you, but that's not a healthy masculine. So like the woman is, she like puts down pieces of herself because she hasn't trained her heart to honor the bigness of who she is. And then what happens is like these men are out here programmed. I just read it this morning. Some man was like, yeah, women need to learn how to control their mouths. And I'm like, oh my God, like what are we listening to? What are we actually putting out into the collective? Like this is what we're creating. And it's like, where did God go wrong that he created a woman with too big of a mouth? Like, where did God go wrong? Because that's what you're basically saying. Once she learns to control her mouth, then she's worthy of love. And
And
I'm
like,
just,
what women
where am
is
I?
that man calling in that he has to say that, you
What am
know?
I? I know. And I'm like, well, unless
So,
you're taking care of every single woman, which perhaps that's part of his desire, you have no fucking right in saying that, because maybe that is part of his desire to control all the women. But
mhm.
like, it's like, why are we feeding this? What happened to the primal woman? What happened to the woman that was so bright that like the entire tribe went to her for her wisdom? And we're over here shutting her down and like programming her to be a good girl. I've just had such enough of it. And so it's like, I think what I'm saying too is like, it in my own internal frequency as well, is like that. It's like almost like the sickness to go back to like this small version of myself because it feels safer. You know, it's just so powerful. Yeah.
I mean, um, I have had a pretty interesting quarter. I've I've called in a couple different kinds of men. So one of them is one that I feel kind of matches my energy, and then this other one feels like this karmic check-in of a reminder of who I used to be and how much I've grown. And
Huh.
that's why I say if you choose to go back and repeat the karmic lesson, which we will do from time to time, like we're in this life and we're making these choices. But if I chose that karmic to redo that karmic lesson and return to something that was like on this lower timeline, I would be minimizing the magic and beauty that I have within myself. I saw like the whole relationship where it would go.
Yeah.
This unless a man is building himself alongside of you, which is this that beautiful vision that I had of these vines kind of like intertwining with each other, and like everything, all the lessons that you guys learn together, it just like grows and grows and it builds this really strong um, rope, so to speak, or really, really strong vine. Unless a man is willing to do that with you and you're conscious enough to know that that is what you want, and you don't sway, you don't minimize, you speak and you maintain your boundaries of this is what I want and I'm not willing to lower myself for you. You have to match me and hold me in a certain respect. The the men that want to control, they have some sort of, if you're trying to control outside of yourself and you're not controlling inside of yourself, because that's the only thing you really have control over. I mean, you can be out there manipulating and you're going to get really tired really fast. It's not a sustainable energy. You really want to be controlling within yourself, learning how to emotionally regulate,
Mhm.
learning how to mentally stand in your own and have your own hobbies and your own intellectual pursuits. You want to be your own person. A
Mhm.
man doesn't want to have a shadow necessarily. He wants to have a queen that sits next to him and is like giving him beautiful wisdom and advice, and is an oracle and is like showing him what how radiant a beautiful woman is, and how extraordinary your life can his life would be will be or is by having her in his presence, because it's an honor for him. It's not this privilege or item that he gets to control. He gets to see the true beauty that she is. And that's really what I think women desire. And I think I'll just kind of touch in on, your little paradox that you're having of like, I want to be like this feminine woman and be in this relationship that I also like am a CEO. And I think what you're really battling is this collective westernized
Yeah.
woman
Hmm.
that you actually are embodying the women that are out there that are like, I don't need no man. I'm going to be, a C-suite exec. And so I think you're feeling into them and you're like, I don't really want that.
No,
I have
no,
this
no.
really strong desire to be in a divine union with a man who meets me where I'm at.
Yeah,
And
that's
so I think
right.
that's really like the juxtaposition of where you're at and what your desire is,
Well,
what
yeah,
you're
and I
wanting.
also
I think
and
you kind of battle
also
that.
yeah, and also I had to look at, like, I know my skill set, which is business build, and so perhaps, um it's funny because I talked about this with my coach, and he is amazing. Like, the cool thing is that I just did this bikini show. So I actually wouldn't have the endurance that I have, or the knowingness of how tough this is in the beginning. I mean, obviously I do because I'm a high achiever, but of how tough it is in the beginning, because guess what happened? I did the same thing as usual. When I first started with the bikini show, I didn't want to go to the gym. So instead I would like film content and do work. And now I like don't want to do more work. So I go to the gym. So like it's the same thing over and over and over again, new level, new devil. But like I know my skill set and I know what I'm here to create. And I saw that actually recently in another man that I attracted. And he actually said to me, "Oh, well, it's very clear that your skill set is to set up businesses. Looks like you still have to do some work there." And I was kind of like, why did he say that? And so there's something about that that's I like the idea of, and I like the idea of achieving. And I'm also so ready to let go and retire. And so it's like, because as soon as my husband comes, I'm gonna retire. And then a part of me is also, it's funny with like ascension, and you know this, where we have these big ideas, but you have to be realistic about where you are right now. So I'm like, I'm retiring, and I tell my clients, like, take the risk, go for it now, but you still have to initiate. You have to. You can't like skip it. So it's like kind of this like thing that I'm in where I'm like, I'm retiring and I want to be with my husband, but there is no husband. If there was a husband, he would be here right now. A man that like it's, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's like kind of like this flow. Um, it's like it's like almost like I'm in like an in between. So you know how there's like the there's Western business, and then there's magic and manifestation, and we're blending those two together.
Hmm.
It's the same thing of like where I am now, which I always talk about, which is like we're turning this ship around and like bringing the feminine back. But nobody's riding around in this place for free. You don't get to fucking just get to the kingdom and be like, as much as all I want to do is lay down and get grapes by men and like just be loved up by men.
Hmm.
I've seen what type of man that attracts.
Hmm.
It doesn't attract a man that believes a woman should be in her sovereignty. And I see that over and over and over again. And that started in high school with a girlfriend whose husband is super, super controlling because she couldn't follow her dreams. So
Hmm.
it's like really like, again, it's like all these paradoxical things. And when you have a lot of coding like me, mother, CEO, sister, fucking, you know how it is.
Yeah,
You're
I got lots of codes.
you're a divine feminine woman. The more divine you become, the more you become humanity because you're love. So you have to learn how to like balance all of them. And that is an extremely difficult thing to do while simultaneously regulating your nervous system, serving, mothering, So yeah, it's just unbelievably powerful. So I've reached a
Yeah,
point where I'm like,
that's
I need my husband. I need my husband. And I have to be realistic about where I am. Powerful.
yeah.
And this is where you see a lot of women stop or
Hmm.
settle for something they
Yes,
want to like.
settle.
They can't,
Hmm.
the frequency of like, they'll settle or they'll go after a man that they know isn't the man because they don't believe in their own creational
And
power.
if you're settling, that is a karmic lesson that you're repeating.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, yeah. So listen to this one. This is what gets funny. So I had an energy healer, and she said to me, "Oh, your man, he's salt and pepper, he has salt and pepper hair. He's gonna be a sales genius, and you're gonna need to do the building piece with him before you guys can relax." And I was like, that's not my man. Like, that's not my man. And guess what my coach is? A salt and pepper guy, sales genius, married, awesome, such a high level of integrity and like a master builder. So remember I had the coach last year that I like got enmeshed in.
Hmm.
So I had to learn that like this is just a strict professional relationship, I got to stay in my, and he doesn't even, there's no room for that. This guy's like way too high in integrity, but
Mhm.
I have to learn discernment. I have to learn to be the woman that I say that I want to be with a powerful man. And then because I rejected what that energy healer said, I was like, that's a sharp fuck no. They brought me a business one again. I was like, ah, I mean, I all my men in through business. It's like the funniest thing. I'm like, oh my God, it's so crazy. Like how many men I call in through like business, it's just so nuts. So I got like another business guy to help initiate me to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why I created my mystical energy spa, is to help women to cleanse and really truly consciously recognize when they're getting into these karmic relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know in your system when you're like in it and you're present, when something is good or when something is not for you. Like, when you're in alignment, and this applies to business, this applies to your job, this applies to relationships, it applies to even your familial relationships, it applies to intimate relationships, it applies to friendships. And I've had to let go of relationships where I don't know why I was holding on to it. It was almost, I don't know why I was holding on to it. It just felt familiar, right? That trauma is familiar and like their energy is familiar. So I was holding on to these people that were not serving me in a way that felt good. And it was scary because, I was almost codependent on their relationship with me. And I've had to release a lot of codependency with the death
Oh
of
yeah.
my mother, with upgrading and having familiar relationships leave me. But I think the thing that I would speak into with that is that when you remove these misaligned relationships, it's not the end of the world.
No, I know.
New
That's the best
things come
part.
in that actually meet you and match your energy of where you're at.
Oh my God, I
So,
gotta tell you, that is like literally the best part about it. Because remember, I just said like even that coach last year where I like lost myself in him. I would still have him work for me because like I've gotten over the pain and I could care less. Like,
mhm,
it's not the end of the world.
it
Like
really isn't.
it really isn't. And what happens with the feminine is we can really like get lost in our head and attach all these stories to these things that like really actually don't matter that much. And it's like, just serve. I kind of just keep coming back to that where it's like, serve, be you,
Mhm.
enjoy your life. If you fuck it up, big deal, like big deal. Just let yourself like, I'm a bit of an overthinker, and I think a lot of women are, where you're like, all right, like, what would I tell my son here? What would I tell my client here? If my client were sitting here saying, I don't know, I'm afraid of my next level, I'd be like, okay, well, we need to work through that program. But like at the end of the day, like, you got to go. You got to keep
Mhm.
going. You got to keep going. Your people can't find you if you're afraid to go.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, and right when you're close, that's when you can want to really self-sabotage. And that's where I'm at right now, myself personally, where I'm like, oh my God, what if I get my desires? And
Yeah. The
that,
fear of success.
yeah, that's exactly
It's
right.
real.
That's exactly right. We create the men that we see. We
Mhm.
create the masculine. So it's like, if like, in fact, when I said about that man that I like, lost myself in, I created that.
Mhm.
I could have created an entirely different outcome with that relationship if I were showing up for myself.
And that's the beauty of
Mm.
5D, is like there's all these probabilities
I know.
and you don't know which one's going to land. I want to speak into this a little bit because it is something
Yeah. And
that
then
I
let's get out of here in about 2 minutes. I do have a massive day today, so I love you so much.
okay.
Let's go 2 minutes.
Yeah, so if you are I want to speak into, like, I've known you for 5 years, and when you started, you had some goals that you were like, I'm doing this and this and this. I'm going to be a performer. I'm going to
Yeah.
move to California. And like just watching your journey of just one, declaring it, and
Yeah.
then two, following through with doing it, like keeping it and not letting your dreams fall to the wayside because some man comes in and is like, I'll take care of you at my, whatever level I'm at. And you're like, okay, like I guess I can be happy at this level. The five, like the universe is listening to the things that you declare. So if you're making declarations, make sure that you're making the highest timeline, the highest thing, the most fantastical thing that you can imagine declarations, because those things do come true. And as far as like 4 and 5D, the 5D is like the probability of these things landing in your life. And
That's
so if you're continuing to make that declaration and say, this is the life I'm going to live, this is where I'm going to be, this is where I want to be, and you keep making that declaration, it can shift a little bit,
I'm
but
gonna get
just
my
be
pen. I'm
really
gonna write this down, but go on, keep going.
but be really true to yourself and recognize that in the 5D, it's like all possible outcomes you could even think to imagine, and
Yeah.
then more, because God is holding that future for you, but you do have a little bit of choice here in the declarations that you're making, in the things that you're speaking, in the energy that you're holding. So if you're staying small and you're not growing into this beautiful, you're not growing into yourself, you're not growing into your soul, you're not expanding your subconscious and like opening that up so that it is in your conscious, your likelihood of like achieving the things that you want to achieve, that's why you're going to feel small and dull and mundane and like unalive in your body. So that's my medicine. So if
That's
this is
it.
speaking to you guys and you're wanting to expand even further, I am here to help guide you. That is why I started my business, and yeah, I hope to hear from you.
I really loved this chat. Beautiful. Thank you so, so, so much. Everybody, if you are interested in Amalé's work, go and follow her on Facebook. We'll go ahead and put some of her information in the chat on below on this live. We had a few people watching. What a great discussion. I feel so motivated. I'm so
Woo!
excited. And you're absolutely right. Like you got to kind of like one of my coach now, I'm just writing down my amazing team wins every day, every single win, including no's from people who are saying no to my services and learning how to manage my time and getting closer and tighter with my boundaries, becoming the woman that I want to be when it comes to my schedule and my integrity and all of the types of things that I'm calling in, because I'm calling in a man that wants to manage my life and I have to manage it first. You have to really do that. And I think that's kind of the whole point of this lifetime, is really looking at who you are and in who you want to be to hold those things. Obviously, thank you for reflecting to me like all those things because it's so cool because sometimes you do forget, you're like, oh shit. But even like just this work has helped me so much with all the external crazy stuff that happened and still achieving those types of goals. And that's what it's all about, right? Is showing people and inspiring them that you can do what you set yourself out to do. You can do it. The only time you create those men and these women is when you have doubts inside yourself. Otherwise, you don't even hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And you certainly don't feed it.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to keep going. And yeah, it's like, as I always say, it's like you got to love the enemy. It's like, oh my God, you're so cute. I don't care.
I know you handle your haters really well.
Yeah, too funny. I love it. All right. Well, you are amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just love you so much. And I cannot wait to see you again we're running magnetic frequency again. You're going to have to come in and guest cameo.
I loved magnetic frequency was one of my favorite courses that I took of yours.
Well, and I think it's what got you your boyfriend.
uh Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of shifts that happen when you choose yourself,
That's
and
right.
when you invest in yourself and you're choosing yourself, and you're doing the work.
That's right.
There's a lot of beautiful things that come out of it, even though it might seem scary. It is scary. Healing, I say, healing is ugly. Like you're crying, you're like going through all of this muck, you're bringing up all this trauma.
Oh, yeah.
But the
That's
beautiful thing is, like, you clean it up, and then all of a sudden, like, the muddy pond that you were sitting in is now this like crystal clear mountain spring, and you get to just kind of splash in it. It's so fun.
I love it so much. You know, and I always remind women and men in particular, men and women both, like you cannot look at someone like myself or I'm not even like quite up there yet, but let's say like a celebrity or a president or anything like that and assume that they had it easy. None of them have. Read
No.
5 biographies if you're confused about whether or not you think you're going to get an easy path here. If you want to go after your soul purpose, you have to really be ready to get humble.
Hmm.
I remember saying to my coach, I said, oh, one of the hard things with like the women that I'm trying to attract is they already think they have such high levels of awareness. They do. They're like, I'm already emotionally intelligent. I'm already highly aware. I've done enough. And then they come into my energy field and they get ripped apart because they don't know anything. And the same thing happened with my coach. I said, but I already know what I'm doing. I'm already at $20,000-$30,000 months. I already know how to create money. And he's taking me to much more than that. And I instantly like had the massive ego death. I was like, so it doesn't stop. That's all I'm saying. All right. You are amazing. I love you so,
I
so
love
much.
you. Thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you, honey. Thank you so much. I love you. You're
Yep.
such a great leader. Bye,
Bye.
Courtney. Bye. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right, honey.